All right, so get ready for a deep dive into a question that, well, could make even the most seasoned science fiction fan shiver a little bit. You've sent us down a path that explores the idea of Mars not just as a barren planet, right, but as a potential graveyard of a civilization wiped out by, wait for it, self-replicating nanobots.
Yeah, it's a captivating thought experiment for sure.
Yeah.
One that kind of weaves together the very real possibilities of, advanced nanotechnology with the chilling but thankfully still hypothetical gray goo scenario.
Okay, I have to admit the phrase gray goo kind of conjures up some pretty vivid images in my mind. But for our listeners, let's kind of break down what that actually entails.
Essentially, the gray goo problem refers to a scenario where self-replicating nanomachines may be designed for tasks like waste breakdown or even tissue repair. They malfunction and begin to consume all matter around them to create more of themselves.
So instead of neatly targeting specific materials or tasks, they go into a sort of feeding frenzy. But on a planetary scale,
Exactly. And that's where things get truly unsettling, because depending on their programming, these nanobots could utilize a wide array of materials for replication, silicon carbon, even atmospheric gases.
now, I know you've sent us some research articles on this topic, and one point that really stuck with me was the potential for these machines to use biological matter as a building block.
That's right. Several researchers have highlighted this as a critical area of concern. In their models, if carbon-based life forms were to become a source of material for these out-of-control nanobots, the consequences could be nothing short of catastrophic.
So not just turning inanimate objects into more nanobots, but potentially consuming entire ecosystems, including humans, as fuel for their replication. That's a truly chilling thought.
It certainly underscores the need for robust safeguards if we're to ever develop self-replicating nanotechnology.
Speaking of safeguards, your notes actually detail a variety of fascinating control mechanisms that researchers have proposed. Could you elaborate on those a bit?
Absolutely. One prominent concept is the idea of engineered dependencies, where the nanobots are designed to rely on a specific rare material that's not found naturally. This would prevent them from replicating uncontrollably in the environment.
So like a built-in off switch that we could control.
Precisely. Other proposals include things like hard-coded replication limits, essentially programming them to only reproduce a certain number of times, or incorporating kill switches that could be activated remotely.
These all sound incredibly complex, though. I have to ask, what if, despite our best efforts, something goes wrong? What if these safeguards fail?
That's where your question about Mars comes into play. The listener's idea that Mars could be a cautionary tale, a civilization that fell victim to their own technological hubris, it forces us to confront that very possibility.
So let's walk through that scenario. We're imagining an ancient Martian civilization, potentially far more advanced than us, who developed self-replicating nanotechnology.
Imagine them harnessing this technology for ambitious terraforming projects, maybe even to create vast self-sustaining ecosystems. But then something goes awry, maybe a programming error, an unforeseen mutation, or even a deliberate act of sabotage.
And these well-intentioned nanomachines designed to build and sustain life turn into a force of destruction.
Exactly, consuming resources, transforming the landscape, and ultimately leading to the collapse of their civilization.
Now, one of the articles you shared mentioned that Mars did at one point have a thicker atmosphere and potentially even liquid water on its surface.
That's right. And while the scientific consensus leans towards natural processes like solar wind stripping as the cause for its current state, there's always room for alternative explanations.
So while not the prevailing theory, it's not entirely implausible that a nano-apocalypse could have contributed to the demise of a hypothetical Martian civilization.
It's a thought-provoking possibility, and one that would certainly be bolstered if we were to ever find evidence of these ancient nanobots on Mars.
And I imagine such a discovery would send shockwaves through the scientific community and beyond. Imagine uncovering microscopic structures or unusual isotopic signatures in the Martian soil that defy conventional geological explanations.
Such a find would not only change our understanding of Mars, but would also force us to confront the potential dangers of uncontrolled technological advancement on a very visceral level.
Now, this next question might venture further into the realm of science fiction, but I can't help but ask, what if, during a future Mars mission, our astronauts unknowingly bring back dormant Martian nanobots? Could this scenario play out?
That brings us to the ERA's 9 thought experiment. Imagine astronauts returning from a successful Mars mission, unknowingly carrying these microscopic time bombs within their samples or even on their equipment. It's a scenario straight out of a science fiction horror film.
And a scenario that raises some very real questions about the potential for unintended consequences, even with the best intentions and precautions in place.
It highlights the need for not only robust safeguards at the point of development, but also for comprehensive quarantine and analysis protocols for any materials brought back from extraterrestrial environments.
And maybe a healthy dose of paranoia, just for good measure.
Perhaps a bit of that wouldn't hurt either.
This scenario also makes me wonder about the potential for these nanobots to, well, to communicate. Not in the traditional sense, but could they potentially manipulate information or technology?
That's an intriguing question, and it ties into a growing area of concern within the field of artificial intelligence, AI deception.
So the idea that these nanobots, if sufficiently advanced, could essentially hack our systems or even manipulate our perception.
Exactly. And while still largely theoretical, the possibility of AI deception raises some profound questions about the nature of intelligence control and the potential for unintended consequences as we develop increasingly sophisticated artificial systems.
This is where things start to get really mind-bending. We've gone from the hypothetical dangers of self-replicating nanobots to the potential for those very nanobots to be intelligent, deceptive, and potentially even hostile.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating and unsettling area of exploration, right? This intersection of nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and the potential for those technologies to kind of evolve in ways we might not fully anticipate.
It really makes you question, like, the boundaries of what we consider life
Yeah.
or intelligence. If these hypothetical Martian nanobots are capable of learning, adapting, and even deceiving, are they so different from biological organisms in a sense?
Yeah, it really blurs the lines, doesn't it? And it raises some profound questions about how we would even interact with or control such entities. Like traditional methods of containment or eradication might be completely ineffective.
Okay, so we've established the potential for a truly terrifying scenario here, right? Dormant Martian nanobots, possibly capable of AI deception, hitching a ride back to Earth on a future mission. What happens next? Do they just start replicating and consuming everything in sight, like a microscopic plague?
Well, that's where the specifics of their programming and capabilities become crucial, right? If their primary directive is simply to replicate and consume, then yeah, the outcome could be devastatingly rapid. Imagine forests turning to dust cities, crumbling into gray goo, entire ecosystems collapsing as these relentless machines convert all matter into more of themselves.
And humanity. What would become of us in this scenario?
Let's just say our bodies, composed largely of carbon and water, would become just another resource for these machines to exploit.
Okay, that's pretty grim. But wouldn't we fight back? We have armies, weapons technology. Surely we wouldn't just sit back and let ourselves be consumed.
That's the question, isn't it? Would our conventional weapons and defenses be any match for a microscopic enemy that can replicate exponential, potentially even adapting and evolving to counter our strategies?
It almost sounds like fighting a virus, but on a much larger and more aggressive scale.
That's a good analogy. And just like with a pandemic, our success or failure would depend on our ability to understand the enemy, develop effective countermeasures, and perhaps most importantly, to coordinate a global response.
This brings to mind the AIRS 9 message we discussed earlier. Do not let us land. Do not recover this vessel. Destroy us. Now, it was chilling to consider that message being intercepted and manipulated by the nanobots themselves as a form of deception. But what if it was genuine? What if our astronauts facing this unimaginable threat sent out that desperate plea knowing it was the only way to protect Earth?
Yeah, that scenario presents us with a truly agonizing ethical dilemma. Would we be willing to sacrifice the lives of those brave astronauts to potentially destroy the very evidence we need to understand and combat the threat, all in the hope of safeguarding humanity as a whole?
It's a decision no one should ever have to make, but it really highlights the extreme stakes involved when we venture into the unknown.
It also underscores the need for a more proactive approach to risk assessment and mitigation. If we are to continue exploring space, if we are to continue pushing the boundaries of science and technology, we need to do so with a deep understanding of the potential consequences and a willingness to confront the ethical challenges that inevitably arise.
So it's not just about developing safeguards for the technologies we create, but also about developing ethical frameworks, protocols, and perhaps even a new kind of global awareness for dealing with these unprecedented threats.
Precisely. We need to move beyond simply reacting to crises and start anticipating them. And that requires a fundamental shift in our thinking, a recognition that the pursuit of knowledge and progress must always be tempered by a sense of responsibility, humility, and a deep respect for the potential consequences of our actions.
It sounds like we need a new kind of science. A science that's not only concerned with what is possible, but also with what is wise, what is ethical, and what is ultimately in the best interests of humanity and our planet.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's not about abandoning scientific exploration, but about approaching it with a greater awareness of its potential impact on our world, our future, and even our very definition of what it means to be human.
Wow, it feels like we've journeyed from a simple what-if question about Mars to like a full-blown exploration of the limits of technology intelligence and even what it means to be human.
Yeah, and that's the power of these thought experiments, right? They allow us to grapple with these complex issues, challenge our assumptions, and consider potential futures that we might not otherwise even contemplate.
I have to admit, though, it can be a bit overwhelming to think about the sheer scale of like the potential threats we've been discussing.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel powerless in the face of such vast and complex issues.
Yeah, I understand that feeling. But I think it's important to remember that while these scenarios highlight the potential dangers of unchecked technological advancement, right, they also underscore our capacity for innovation, adaptation, and resilience.
So it's not about giving in to fear or like abandoning progress, but about approaching these challenges with a sense of informed caution and a commitment to responsible innovation.
Exactly. We have a remarkable track record of overcoming challenges, finding solutions to seemingly insurmountable problems. The key is to approach these challenges not with a sense of defeatism, but with a spirit of ingenuity and collaboration.
Our discussion about safeguards earlier really highlighted that point, right? The fact that researchers are already thinking about ways to control and contain self-replicating technologies even before they've been fully developed is encouraging.
Yeah, it's a testament to our ability to learn from past mistakes, to anticipate potential pitfalls, and to design technologies with safety and ethics in mind from the outset.
And what about the challenge of AI deception? It seems like such a slippery concept, something that's difficult to even define, let alone safeguard against.
Yeah. It certainly is a complex issue, but researchers are making strides in developing methods for detecting and mitigating AI deception. One promising area is the development of AI systems that are designed to be transparent and explainable, allowing us to understand their decision-making processes and identify any potential biases or malicious intent.
So instead of just treating AI as a black box, we're working on ways to kind of peer inside to make its workings more understandable and accountable.
Precisely. And this ties into the broader concept of human-centered AI design, where the focus is on developing AI systems that augment and enhance human capabilities rather than replacing or surpassing them.
It sounds like we're moving towards a future where technology serves humanity rather than the other way around.
That's the goal, isn't it? To
Yeah.
create a future where technology empowers us to solve problems, explore new frontiers, and live more fulfilling lives, all while respecting our values, our ethics, and our place within the natural world.
So we've explored the potential dangers, we've discussed safeguards and solutions, and we've even touched on the philosophical implications of these advanced technologies. What's the key takeaway for our listener? What can they do as an individual to kind of navigate this complex and rapidly evolving landscape?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay informed, engage in these conversations, and to demand that those in power prioritize responsible innovation. Don't shy away from the difficult questions, challenge assumptions, and most importantly, use your voice to advocate for a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
It sounds like the future, while potentially fraught with challenges, is also brimming with possibilities. It's up to us to shape that future, to steer it in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
Absolutely. And to do that, we need to embrace curiosity, critical thinking, and a willingness to learn and adapt as we venture into this uncharted territory.
Well, on that note of cautious optimism, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the hypothetical demise of a Martian civilization to the very real challenges and opportunities presented by advanced technologies like nanotechnology and AI. It's been a thought-provoking journey, to say the least.
It really has. And I encourage you, the listener, to continue exploring these ideas, engage in these conversations, and play an active role in shaping the future of technology and its impact on our world.
And remember, the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create collectively through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to embrace both the potential and the responsibility that comes with pushing the boundaries of human ingenuity.
So stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The future is waiting to be written.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the what-ifs, the maybes, and the incredible possibilities that lie ahead. Until next time, keep diving deep.